Resourceful Designer, episode 98, Evaluating Your Design Business's Touchpoints.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. His favorite band growing up was Rat, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you've joined me this week, taking a little bit of time to listen to me discuss graphic design when you could be doing other things, watching TV, listening to some great music, or concentrating hard on work. So I do appreciate the time that you take to spend with me. Now, I have a great topic I'm going to discuss today. It's about Touchpoints. And if you're not sure what that is, I'm going to get to it a little bit later. But for now, I want to share a little story of something that happened last week. I had a client that contacted me. This is an ongoing client. I've been working with her for years. She's a lawyer. And she contacted me to say that they were purchasing a board in a hockey arena. That's the boards that go around the hockey rink. Well, there's advertising that's placed along these boards, and she was purchasing one of them for her law business, her law firm. And this was her secretary that contacted me and said that the lawyer wanted me to just use the information from the business card and design something that would fit on the rink board. And she gave me the dimensions and everything. Anyways, so I designed something. I put their logo. They have a little swoosh thing that we put on all her branding. So we use that. And I put the certain bullet points that she wanted about her business. And I put a phone number. I did not put an address on there because on a hockey board, it's just not worth it. I did have a website on there, and I sent her the proof. Now, she got back to me and says, oh, well, she said she wanted the information from her business card, and her photo is on her business card. And she really wanted her photo to be on this board as well, so people would recognize her. Now, I got back to her, and this is the reason I'm telling this story is so that you understand that as designers, sometimes it's our job to tell our clients when something doesn't work or isn't a good idea. In this case, the client thought that having her photo on this rink board would be a good publicity, would be good marketing for her business. But then I got back to them and I asked, I says, have you ever been to a hockey game? Have you ever looked at those rink boards? And have you ever noticed that the hockey puck, which is black, when it is hit hard enough and it hits against the board, it will often leave a black streak along the board. And I asked, do you really want your photo on the board where you never know? The puck may hit and all of a sudden you have a black eye. Worse yet, this woman could have a mustache if the puck hits at the right spot to leave a mark just under her nose. From then on, her photo will have a mustache. And it's not like they go washing these hockey boards. Once they're up there for the duration of the season, and whatever marks happen on them stay there. So I pointed that out, and they were grateful, because if they would have gone somewhere else and just said, here, this is what I want, they would have done it. But having worked with her before and having just the experience that I know of, I was able to dissuade them from using the photo, and they thanked me very much. And we designed a really nice board that I think is going to hopefully help her business out. I don't know what the ROI on these things are, but she was keen on supporting the local hockey team. And now everybody is happy, and we won't end up with a photo of a woman with a potential mustache or black eye or scars across her face from an errant hockey puck. So it just goes to show that part of our job is not just designing, but informing the clients when something they think might be a good idea sometimes isn't as good as they think it is. Now, I'm happy to announce that I have two sponsors for this week's episode. The second one, which is Brandfolder, I'll discuss more towards the end of the episode. But for now, I want to talk to you about Storyblocks. Now, you've heard me for the past several weeks. If you've been listening to the podcast, I've told you all sorts of things about Storyblocks.com and their other companies, which are audioblocks.com, videoblocks.com. Storyblocks.com is an umbrella company for the three sites, the video site, the audio site, and the image site. And they are offering a great deal for listeners of Resourceful Designer. Normally, you would have to buy each one of these sites or subscribe to them individually. But now, for a limited time, if you visit storyblocks.com/resourcefuldesigner, You pay one price and you get all 3 sites for a year. Now, I want to tell you the importance of having some of these things. You might think, well, I only use the images sites. I really don't need the audio or the video. But I want to tell you something about video. Just recently, I've been A/B testing or split testing a website for a client. And the only thing different on the website is the client wanted to try something. Actually, I wanted to try something too. Is we found an image. This is something coming up for Christmas. And we found a beautiful image of a young girl opening up a Christmas present. And it's just a still image of the present being opened. You don't see what's in the box, but the girl is super happy at what is in the box. And you feel that. And we use that as the hero image on this landing page. Now, we did another page that has the identical copy, the identical call to action and everything. But we replaced that still image with a video from Video Blocks that has a young girl opening up a Christmas present and being super happy at the contents inside. Again, we don't see what's actually in the present she gets, but she's super excited. And we've had that up for, trying to think now, might be a month or so. And looking at the analytics, the page with the video on it is converting much better than the page with the static image. So it just goes to show that websites with a video on them are very important. And if video is something you hadn't really considered, you may want to take Storyblocks up on this deal because, as I said earlier, for one price, you get access to all 3 sites, videoblocks.com, audioblocks.com, and storyblock.com/images. And that is only available by visiting storyblocks.com/resourceful designer. And I can honestly say I'm very happy with the subscription that I have. And now I want to share this week's resource of the week. Now, this week's resource is something that I actually just discovered a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Peak by User Testing. Now, User Testing, it's usertesting.com, is a site in itself that provides qualitative research by real people when testing your website, your app, prototypes, maybe wireframes, email campaigns. You can even test your competitors' sites with it. And what they do is they perform tests by real people. They get real people to visit, test your app, test your website, and they give you a report on what they find. And not just any people. These are people within the target market that you request. And if you remember last week's episode where I talked about target markets, how important they are. Now, whenever you do test, you get a video or audio or written feedback from the actual people that use the site, providing valuable insight into your product. Now, the thing I wanted to share this week is that User Testing has a site called Peak, and it's Peak, P-E-E-K, .usertesting.com. And on this site, you can submit any URL and get a 5-minute video from one person visiting your website. Now, this one here, you can't specify what target market they're in. It's just going to be a random person visiting your website just to try to see what your website's all about, if they can figure out how to navigate it properly, what sort of stuff they like about it, what they don't like about it. And it's a very unbiased opinion. And I tried it out for Resourceful Designer, and it was great. I loved the information I got back from it. And it's only, as I said, 5-minute long, but you can test out your own site and see whether people think it works or not. And while you're at it, if you're building websites for your clients, you can always get those sites tested as well. So I just discovered this a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was a great resource, just something to get a little bit of insight, because we spend all this time developing our websites, apps, all sorts of stuff. And sometimes it's good to get a third party to give us an honest opinion on what they think about it. So once again, that website, if you want to try the free 5-minute evaluation, that's Peak, P-E-E-K, .usertesting.com. And now, evaluating your design business's touchpoints. You know the saying that you're only as strong as your weakest link? When it comes to the success of your design business, you're only as strong as your weakest touchpoint. Now, what is a touchpoint? If you're not familiar with the term, a touchpoint happens anytime someone interacts directly with your brand. Now, that could be your name. If you are running your design business under your name, it could just be your name when someone interacts or corresponds with it, or it could be the name of your company if you do that way. If you want to know more about naming your business, you can look back at episode 41 of the podcast, Naming Your Design Business. You can get that at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 41. But when it comes to Touchpoints, what they are pivotal gateways that any potential client uses to decide whether they want to take the next step and maybe work with you, or that they want to back away and maybe look somewhere else for a different designer. Because it doesn't matter how good you are as a designer, if you have a touch point that fails, you may be losing potential clients before they even get a chance to discover how great you are. Now, in order to evaluate your touch points, you need to take an inventory of what they are. Now, there are many touch points to every business, and they include things like your website, your business cards, your flyers, any blog post you write, any advertising you do. They also include things like your voicemail message, how you display yourself at trade shows. Again, I talked about that last episode, trade shows. So a touch point can include anything that a potential client comes in, quote unquote, touch with, either before, during, or after they meet you. And simply having touch points is not good enough. Having business cards, yes, you need business cards, but just having a business card might not necessarily be good enough. Having a website might not be good enough. All these things, as I said, are touch points, but just having them might not be good enough for your business, because each touch point has to represent your brand, because that's where potential clients will form their opinion of you and your business. And the only way for you to evaluate your touch points is to take a step back and look at your brand from an unbiased perspective. Normally, you see your business from your side. I mean, it only makes sense. You're in your business. You know everything about your business, so you see it from your side. But how does the world see you and your business? That's what we're going at here. And if you can successfully look at your business in this way, it can help you perfect each touch point so that it meets the needs of your clients and of potential clients. Because when it comes to you and your business, every single touch point matters. But there's a problem there. But if every touch point matters, then how do you manage each touch point so that it properly reflects your brand? And the answer is really quite simple. It's a 3-step process. You've got to list, you've got to evaluate, and you've got to take action. If you manage your touch points through this formula, it'll help you make sure that each one is optimized, satisfies its needs, and is inviting to clients. So let's go over this 3-step process. Step 1 is list. First off, you need to start by listing all of the current touch points you can think of. And the key word here is all. Everything you and your business has. This could be your website. It might be your social media presence. Could be your email signature, your domain name, your marketing materials, such as your business card, your flyers, any advertisements you might do locally or online. It can also include your voicemail and your phone greeting when you answer the phone. It might include any signage on your vehicle, or maybe even just your vehicle on its own without signage. It could include your office space. If clients meet you in your office, that's a touch point, and so many other things. So list everything you can think of, anything that a client might come in contact with that represents your business that they could possibly see for the very first time. Once you've listed each of these touch points, then you need to evaluate each one based on your brand. So step 2 is evaluate. Once you've listed all your touch points, look at each one of them individually. Now, this part might be easier if you actually have somebody else do it for you, because the goal here is to find the weaknesses in your touch point. And if you do it yourself, you may tend to overlook some of the failures in them because you're biased to your own business. It's just natural. So maybe get help from somebody else. But the purpose of this evaluation stage is a discovery phase. It's to help you find the opportunities so you can make improvements. Keep in mind that a touch point may not be bad, but does it have room for improvement? So evaluate each one and see if there's anything that can be done better. Once you've done that, then you move on to step 3, which is take action. Once you've discovered which touch points are your weakest links, you can now take the necessary steps to correct them. And remember that deficits in your touch points are actually opportunities to improve your brand image, because the smallest details can influence someone's decision on whether or not they want to work with you. Now, I'm talking about these touch points for your business because I want you to improve your business and for you to get more clients. But you can also take these steps with your clients. As you're developing things for your clients, you can improve their touch points so that their business succeeds. Because if your client's business succeeds, then chances are they're going to hire you for more and more things. So it's a win-win scenario. Now, I want to tell you a story about one client that I have. And this client started off just a couple of years ago. They started this business, and I knew the client beforehand. So they kind of got me involved from the start on helping them, developing their brand. And it did help that I knew the client. But we started off developing, first of all, the logo, the brand, and then kind of the material that would work around that. And then slowly over the years, we've been building things. And it's all these touch points that we've improved on. And it will help build a brand over time. So in this case, this company would go to quite a number of trade shows throughout the year. And we started off originally, I designed one of those collapsible trade show booth walls. It's I think it was a 10-foot wide by 6 or 7 foot tall. It was more than 7, probably about 7 foot tall, retractable walls that would go up. And we designed an entire back image that fit in with the brand. Now, when they went to that first trade show, people really responded to that backdrop. They thought it was professionally done. It was a good touch point. When people walk by the booth, they looked and they go, oh, wow, this is great. And they would get business from it. People would come in and see that. Well, after that first trade show, which they got a really good response from, we sat down and we said, how can we improve it for next time around? So the next time around, what we did is we figured that at the trade show, they had a table. And most trade shows, your booth has a table. And it's usually a 6-foot table. So what we did is we designed, instead of just having the standard white table skirt or tablecloth that went with the table, we had a custom printed, branded table skirt, I guess you can call it, for the business. And it had their logo on top with some extra stuff for their branding. And then on the sides of the skirt, it had their logo repeated again. And the next trade show, we added this. And they got a really good response. First of all, it made them more visible. So the touch point, which now people didn't have to walk in front of their booth to see the back wall. They can be down the aisle and see the logo on the side of the table up ahead. So that touch point all of a sudden became more valuable to that client. Now, the next trade show, what they did is the client always, and I talked about trade shows last episode and how you should look professional and the way you dress. Well, the people that worked at this booth always dressed very well. And that was good. It made a good impression. But again, ways to improve it. So this last year, they had custom embroidered shirts made with their logo. Now, this is not t-shirts. This is a dress shirt. They actually went out and bought dress shirts and had the logo embroidered on them. And what this did was created an air of professionalism because everybody at the booth had a similar shirt with the company logo on it. And at the trade show, there were other companies that in the similar field that didn't have this. Some of them had t-shirts that were branded, and everybody had a certain t-shirt on. So at least you knew they were all from the same company. But what happened was people coming to the booth were looking and were impressed with my client's presence at the trade show. So all of these things were individual touch points that people saw. There was the trade show booth that looked really good. Some of the competitors had good looking backdrops as well. But then we added the table skirt. Nobody else had that. So it was an extra touch point that people saw and they appreciated, and it made them feel like they were dealing with a more sophisticated and a more professional company. Then they added the custom embroidered shirts compared to their competition that was wearing t-shirts. And again, the people stopping at the booth appreciated it more. And every year we've been tracking, they get more and more business. When they leave one of these trade shows, they've increased their ROI and their client base exponentially every single year. And that was just by going over the touch points. What can we improve on? Because we could have easily said, well, that backdrop, that wall was great. Let's just do it again. Let's do it again. But this client saw the value when we discussed it. We talked about all these touch points, and they saw the value in this and creating a consistent brand across everything. And now they are the best looking in their field. I mean, there are other companies in different fields at the trade show that may have a bigger budget than them and look like wow when you look at their booth. But when it comes to all the people, the competitors and them in this field, now they are the standout because of all these different touch points. So when somebody is walking around and they're not at the booth, you know right away that this person, you see their nice embroidered shirt, you go, wow, like this person is from that company, and wow, don't they look good? As opposed to somebody else that's just wearing jeans and a t-shirt that's branded. So touch points are very important, and you can do the same thing with your business. Now, I'm just talking about one trade show and how over the course of several years, we improved it. But imagine if you apply this to your business or to your client's business across the board, not just at a trade show. So look for all your touch points and go over these 3 steps. List everything you can think of. If you have people meet you at your business, it's how your place looks. Is it messy when people come in? If you have an office, is there a nice carpet that they see? Is there something on the door? Maybe your logo on the door. Something nice. Just, again, touch points. Then once you list all these things, step 2, evaluate them. See if there's anything, each single one of these, to improve. And then take action and improve them. If you, and maybe you have some people working with you, if you're just answering the phone, hello, that might be something that you need to change. And answer your phone with your business name. And maybe not just your business name, but with your name. I know myself, whenever I answer the phone, I always answer the phone, Marksman Design, Mark speaking, because not everybody knows that I work for myself. And they're calling my business. And a lot of times they might want to say, well, can I speak to Mark? Well, by answering the phone and saying that it's Mark speaking, they know right away that they're talking to the right person, because they might not know that I'm a solopreneur. So that is another touch point. They appreciate that right off the bat. It's professional and they know who they're talking to. Same thing with the voicemail. Whenever you have a voice message, even if it's just something temporarily, I'll be away from the office. Make sure that it follows your brand. Because somebody, a new client that's calling you, maybe for the very first time, and they get a voicemail, if they're not impressed or they think, well, that's kind of a cheesy voicemail, then they may decide not to call you back. So once you've gone through all these 3 steps and you've improved your touch points and things are going good, then you have to set yourself reminders to revisit these touch points on a regular basis, maybe once per year. You set up a reminder in your calendar to just go over them. You already have a list, so it's easy to go through the list. And maybe there's new ones that have popped up over the past year that you can add to the list. Maybe some of them you can delete that aren't relevant anymore. Because you keep in mind that as technology changes, so will the effectiveness of each touch point. Email was very important, but now if you're dealing more with Facebook Messenger or some other social media platform to communicate with clients, then maybe you should be concentrating on that more than your email. Now, you may want to get your clients involved in helping you determine this stuff, your existing clients I'm talking about. And you can use some powerful tools like maybe some sort of customer evaluation form or something on a website and ask your clients to evaluate you, maybe a site survey or something like that. Or even using the resource that I shared this week and get some user testing done. Have somebody evaluate all the different parts of your business. It's not that expensive to have done, and you get an impartial third party that looks at it and can give you their opinion on what they think could be improved. But do remember that it's not all about a single touch point. It's about all of them together. So take the time to evaluate them, yes, individually, but also as a group. Do they all represent your brand? Because when it comes to marketing you and your design business, every single touch point is an opportunity to attract new clients. And every designer wants to attract new clients. So get looking at your touch points and see where you can improve. Now, I would love to know if this is something that you are already doing. Please hit me up at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 98 and leave a comment and tell me how touch points are affecting your business. Now, I have a great listener question this week, but before I get to it, I want to share this week's second sponsor, and that's Brandfolder. Now, Brandfolder is the solution for managing digital brand assets. Now, as designers, you know the importance of a brand and everything that goes into maintaining one. There are logos, there's company colors, there's fonts, there's media kits, maybe there's brand guidelines, there's images, there's documents, and so much more that make up a brand. And for any brand to succeed, consistency matters. But did you know that the average business wastes over 60 hours each year searching for misplaced brand assets? That's almost 2 weeks of productivity lost, looking for needles in haystacks and digging through misplaced folders and old emails, trying to find the most recent revisions of some brand asset. With Brandfolder, your clients can store, manipulate, distribute, and track all of their digital assets from one single location. Brandfolder's in-app analytics even helps measure which of their assets are performing the best in the marketplace. The Brandfolder platform is made for approved assets to be distributed both publicly and privately, benefiting any company who needs to quickly organize, simplify, and manage its assets effectively to maintain brand consistency. Companies like JetBlue, Slack, and Under Armour, and thousands more use Brandfolder to provide a single source of truth for all things related to their brand equity. And your clients can use it too. Help your clients discover the power of Brandfolder today by going to brandfolder.com/resourcefuldesigner, where they can unlock the complete potential of their brand assets with a free 90-day trial. That's brandfolder.com/resourcefuldesigner. It's time your clients take control of their brand and manage all of their digital assets from one location, setting them up for success in 2018. And now, this week's question of the week. This week's question comes in from Summer. She says, "Hi, Mark. Thanks for your wonderful podcast. I have a question for you. When I'm designing logos and need to purchase a font for it, do I buy the license for myself or do I buy it for the client the logo is for? I would not be giving the font to the client, only the outlined vector file of the final logo, plus JPEG and PNGs and so forth. In this situation, who owns the license? Thanks in advance for your help." Well, thanks for the question, Summer. And this one's pretty straightforward. You own the license to the font, especially if you're outlining it. If you need to give the font, if it's part of a brand guide for your client, you're designing more than just the logo, and the client will be using that font for other digital assets making up their brand, then they should have a license for the font. But I would say that's the client's responsibility. You should still have the font for yourself. So when you buy the font, you're not handing that font over to the client unless you hand over the license along with it. But in these cases, I would say you buy it yourself because you need that font. And part of the license you have is that you are allowed to create commercial work with the license. Now, you may find some fonts that may limit things, but I'd say the bulk of 99% of the fonts out there will allow you to create commercial work with the fonts. That's part of the license. So, and especially as you said, if you're outlining the vector file, then you've got nothing to worry about. You simply give those to the clients and they should be happy and you're completely covered under license for the font that you purchased. But again, if the client wants to use that font for other things, maybe they want to use it in their reports or they want to use it as the body copy in there whenever they write a letter and print it on their letterhead, they will need to purchase their own license for that font. So that's the quick answer to your question, Summer. Thank you very much for sending that in. Now, if you would like to have your question answered in a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit your question. Now, I'd like to share another beautiful iTunes review I received. This one came in from Nepkire from the USA. It says, I started listening to Mark's podcast about a year ago. I have loved the helpful tips and insight he provides about freelance design, and his interactions with the listeners shows how much he cares about the design community. Thank you, Mark. I've learned a lot from you. Well, thank you very much for that, Nepkire. I do appreciate it. Now, if you would like to leave a review for the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, and that'll redirect you to the iTunes store in your country where you can leave a review. Now, I just want to give a quick thanks to Peter and Molly, both who have signed up on Patreon to support Resourceful Designer. Your contribution is very much appreciated. If you are benefiting from the podcast, if you're learning anything, you get any value out of this, if you're just being entertained and you would like to help support the podcast in return, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. And you could sign up for as little as $1 a month to support the podcast. Now, before I go, I just want to remind you of this week's sponsors, Storyblocks, 3 great sites for getting digital assets, and an amazing 3-for-1 deal if you visit storyblocks.com/resourcefuldesigner. And of course, Brandfolder, the perfect platform for managing all those digital assets. You can get a 90-day free trial by visiting brandfolder.com/resourcefuldesigner. And be sure to check out this week's Resource of the Week. If you want to get a free 5-minute evaluation of your website or maybe one of your clients' websites, it is super easy. You just sign up and then they will deliver it straight to your inbox. And that website again is peak.usertesting.com. That's it for this week's episode. I want to thank you once again for staying with me and discussing our design businesses and helping them improve. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your design business, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.